Here we go. Next chapter of Lois Lowry's The Willoughbys is chapter 16, Two Terrible Tourists. The small Swiss village was so remote that travelers rarely passed through. Even the train that had been buried there 6 years before had been on its way to someplace else, to a different town with museums and shops and that sold plastic models of the Alpenhorns and St. Bernards. For that reason, because it was such an unusual happening, the villagers took notice of the two tourists who arrived wearing sunglasses and carrying badly folded maps. The townspeople murmured to each other about the odd clothing. Bermuda shorts on the both men and women, and Birkenstock sandals on their feet. "Whatever are they doing here?" they said to each other in low voices. They watched the couple enter a small guest house on the main street. "We need a big lunch," the man said to the waitress. He picked up the menu and glanced at it. "I can't read this. It isn't in English. Tell me in a civilized language. What have you to eat? We are in need of nourishment." "We're going to climb that Alp," the man announced loudly, pointing through the window toward the towering mountain. His wife, looking at the guidebook, said, "Listen to this," and read out to the pretty waitress, who was the daughter of the proprietor. "Never been successfully climbed. With good binoculars, one can see in summer, when the deepest snow has abated, the frozen bodies of several famous climbers. It is too dangerous for rescuers to retrieve these poor lost souls, and they remain there as a reminder to others and a tribute to the ferocious power of this mountain." She pushed her sunglasses to the top of her head and squinted through the window. "I can't see the bodies," she whined. "I want to see the frozen bodies." "Can I get a good, thick steak?" the man asked the waitress, and she shook her head, gave a sigh of expiration. "These foreigners," she muttered irritably to his wife. "Well, how about a Reuben sandwich?" "No, I'm sorry," she said politely. "We have fondue. We are very proud of it as a national dish." "Fondue? Good Lord, do you know what I call that? Fondue-doo, that's what. Well, we'll have hamburgers. We'll need something substantial and some drinks with ice cubes in them, for heaven's sake. I don't know why in a country with ice everywhere no one can get a drink with ice cubes." The pretty waitress took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, no hamburgers. I could ask Father to make you a cheese sandwich." Grouchily, they agreed to cheese sandwiches, and grouchily, they ate them when they arrived. Then they grouchily paid the bill without leaving a tip. "What are you staring at?" the man asked the waitress as they turned to leave, and she blushed and apologized. She had been staring, actually, at their heads, thinking for a moment that they may be royalty, because they seemed to be wearing crowns of some sort, and because they had acted a bit like titled people for minor principalities. Now, however, she could see on their heads that they were wearing hiking equipment intended actually for the soles of your hiking boots, and it was quite startling. Later, when the two had gone, headed to the trail at the foot of the mountain, noisily dragging the pitons that they had attached by string to their ankles, the waitress cleared the table and said in a worried voice to her father, "They're planning to climb that mountain, but they don't even have warm clothing, and for some reason they are wearing crampons on their heads." He shrugged. "Should we send someone to stop them?" "We Swiss never get involved," he said, "and anyway, no one is available. Everyone is going to weddings, so are we." And he went to the door of the guest house and hung a sign that said, "Geschlossen bin auf Hochzeit," closed for a wedding. The wedding was a very exciting event for the village. After years of bachelorhood, so many that his mother had been wringing her hands in despair, the tall, thin postmaster, Hans Peter, had fallen widely and wonderfully in love with somewhat mysterious and very meticulous foreign lady who had been rescued from the avalanche. She had already rearranged his postal boxes as well as his kitchen utensils, and on this day they were being married in the village church at the foot of the Forbidden Mountain. The bride was wearing an Edelweiss wreath on her neatly curled hair. Her young son in his lederhosen was acting as ring-bearer. Not only the post office, but all the local shops were closed for the afternoon. All of the villagers gathered, first for the ceremony and then for the lengthy celebration, which included yodeling, beer drinking, and many dances, with dancers that bumped their behinds together and clapped their hands. A day, to be sure, but not for the bride's son. For his mother's sake, he danced and yodeled and smiled, and he was polite to the postmaster and called him stepfather. But beneath his pretense, the boy was deeply unhappy, not just at the wedding, but with the little village. Nothing about Switzerland agreed with him. He was very clumsy on his skis. The sound of cowbells hurt his ears. He's allergic to cheese, and cuckoo clocks made him very nervous. And he had twice nicked his fingers with a Swiss Army knife. His lederhosen itched, and his knees were always cold, and though memories were blurred after such a long time, and though his mother had said again and again, if he cared about us, he would have written. And the boy did recall a kind and loving man with a thick mustache, a man he had called Papa, one who he had once read to him. Animal or adventure stories usually, in a quiet voice, while they sat together in a porch swing, and he wanted desperately to go home.